Hello, welcome to a demonstration on how to perform a net present value. Right, so net present value is a very important concept that is largely used for the purpose of determining whether to proceed with a project or not, or proceed with an investment or not. Now, in this particular case, we have a very practical example where we have a large local organization that wishes to set up an entrepreneurship incubation center. So they want to set up a center where they can help people who want to start their own businesses to kind of grow up under their wings, and then once they feel confident, then they can be on their own. So again, this particular project, the setup cost of the center is going to be $2 million, which is primarily buying equipment. The center will also end its operation in about 10 years time. So the project is actually set for 10 years, and after 10 years there won't be anything else left. The equipment is assumed to be of no value by that particular time. Now it's also expected that this particular center will generate annual revenue for about $300,000 while incurring expense of about $100,000. So after extensive research and negotiation, the investor secured a bank loan with an interest rate of 4%. Should the investor proceed with the project strictly from a financial perspective, right? So it's very important to take note of that, strictly from a financial perspective, because while quantitatively we can come up with one position, there could be some other qualitative elements that may not have been taken into consideration that may suggest otherwise. But from a quantitative perspective, should the university actually proceed? Now, this particular question forms the framework within which we are going to look at this particular situation. But it does make sense for us just to look at the working definition of our net present value. What does it actually mean? In most cases, it's also referred to as an NPV, as an abbreviation, and is defined as the difference between cash inflows and cash outflows. So both discounted at their present values. So future cash flows, they're actually discounted at the present value, so that we can reflect the correct value of those cash flows. So the net of the cash inflow and the outflow is discounted, and then NPV measures the net gain or loss on the investment project. So we expect the cash inflow to be higher than the outflow. And so it is used then as a criterion in decision making based on common sense, although economists of course call it efficiency, right? So the general rule of thumb is that if net present value is greater than zero, then the project or investment creates value. And consequently, we accept that particular project. Now, if net present value is less than zero, then the project investment destroys the value, and we therefore reject the project. So that's the general rule of thumb. But otherwise, if the net present value is zero, then the project neither creates nor destroys value, and consequently we can go either way. Right? Okay, so that working definition is very, very important to have some grounding and understanding what net present value really is all about. Now back to our problem. Now I've done some I've already set up the framework here just to show you how much money is going to be invested in this particular business, and annually how much expenses we are actually expecting. We know it's 100,000, right? So it's going to be negative 100,000 money that's going to be going out every year, okay? And we are expecting 300,000 in revenue, right? Okay, so I can actually use the fill handle here to drag it down so that I don't have to keep on re-entering 300,000. That's a shortcut there for you. So now what is going to be the net cash inflow, right? That's the one that, based on which you're going to calculate the present value, then that's the one we're going to discount. So equal sign, we can actually net off the two values. right, we can net off the two values. When we add them together, we can see the net is actually 200,000, which is actually true. And then, of course, we can copy that formula downwards. Now it's time for us to calculate the present value. Okay, so to calculate the present value, we use the PV function, which is the present value function. So equal sign and PV, and then it shows up, and we double click on it, and then it shows us the template that we can actually use. Okay, so the rate, we know the rate is going to be that 4%, and we want to be absolutely referenced when we copy this particular formula. Okay, so we insert a $sign to the left of B, a $sign to the left of 2. So we are absolutely referencing both the column and the row. And then comma, and the number of periods, we know that we'll be using the year 0, 1, all the way to year 10. Okay. Now that we want it to be relatively referenced, so when we copy the formula downwards, it should also be moving from one year to the other. Comma, it's not the payment we need, it's the future value. The 200,000 is actually going to be the future value. So we click on those values in our net cash. Then closing parenthesis, we'll press enter. And okay, you can see here by default, right? By default, Excel will give you a negative number, but we want us to give a positive number. So we put a minus, right? It's very important to always remember that. Okay. Then we can copy this downwards, and I'd already created a formula here to net off the initial investment and then the discounted cash flows, and it's actually showing us that by year 10 we'll still be in the negative. We'll not have recovered the $2 million that we invest in this particular project. So based on the working definition, this particular project destroys value. So from a strictly financial perspective or quantitative basis, we cannot proceed with the type of a project like this, right? So basically that's the net present value there for you. And what is actually important for you just to understand the important elements that need to be included in there. There's an initial investment, and we expect some revenue from it, and we also expect to incur some expenses, and then is that net cash that we have to discount. And right, and it's actually based on the going rate that we probably will have negotiated with the bank. And then of course we discount our net cash, and then we add up all the net cash and we net it off against the initial investment, and then whatever the result is going to be the determinant for any decision we are actually going to make. Otherwise, that's all I have for you. I hope you found this activity useful, and that it solidify your understanding of net present value. And again, be sure to share this with your friends so that they can also become a little more informed about net present value, a very important concept that can really make a huge difference in decision making. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.